Let me introduce myself for the first time. It's Mumbling Nick, the guy you're supposed to have on your political show.
Screaming truth in the void. Army major cocaine, Carol they deploy. Firing gun, just a puppet on a string. Nick fights in the double verse, truth he brings. Nick mumbling, screaming truth in the void. Army major cocaine, Carol they deploy. Stuttering tongue, just a puppet on a string. Nick fights in the double verse, truth he brings. Blue collar fist strike against the power. PMS podcast hour after hour. Noise of the streets giving birth to a roar. Nick's got the voice that shakes power to the core. Mumbling Nick rise up and yell against the lies where heroes dwell. Truth very deep, now set it free. Nick's the voice for you and me. Army major marching on with steel cold pride. Nick spills truth, won't let it hide. Cocaine Karen flashing cash in the sea. Stuttering John, a shadow can't compete. Voices clash in the void of screams. Nick's got the backbone to break their schemes. On the podcast, airwaves rough and raw. Nick stands tall, defying law. Mumbling Nick rise up and yell against the lies where heroes dwell. Truth very deep, now set it free. Nick's the voice for you and me. Mumbling Nick rise up and yell against the lies where heroes dwell. Truth very deep, now set it free. Nick's the voice for you and me.
Welcome, everybody, to a special out of nowhere version of PMS podcast. I am Mumbling Nick, OG Mumbling Nick, sorry. It is Sunday night. Usually, my co host and I, Liquid Cryptid, do our Sunday night show, Dabbling in Politics, at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Liquid was unable to join me tonight. He's been on vacation. I believe he just got home, so he is exhausted. So when I got the news that he wasn't going to be able to come on, I was not home. I was out running errands. So I thought, well, it'd be a good time to do this particular stream that I wanted to do pretty much all week as I watched a story develop in my home state that became national news. The Midas Touch brothers talked about it. I am not a fan of Midas Touch. I'm not a fan of, what the hell is her name? The MSNBC lady with the glasses, Rachel Maddow. She actually led off. This was number one story on one of her nights, I believe. This thing going down in a town called Milford, Massachusetts. I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, I had this stream set up for days. I just planned on doing this myself, a random night whenever I was available. And when Liquid told me he wasn't going to be able to do our usual show tonight, Dabbling in Politics, I was like, well, it's a great opportunity. I'll just swap. We'll either cancel Dabbling in Politics for the week, or we'll do it, we might even do it tomorrow night. And I will do this show instead. Unfortunately, I didn't get home until a little bit after 9 to even do it. And then I had to get it all ready because I did not have this prepped. As I said, I was going to try and do this tomorrow night at the earliest. But anyway, here we are. I'm not expecting Uh, Too many live people. This is way later than I usually go on. This is an hour later than the show is supposed to even start. It's not the usual show, but I am hoping this is something that gets watched later on by people in the Dabbleverse and people outside the Dabbleverse. If you are someone who finds this and you are not in the Dabbleverse, I will quickly try to explain what the Dabbleverse is. It's kind of like an online community of people that come from the Howard Stern show and Opie and Anthony. Stuttering John Melendez was the key figure that this universe once revolved around. He's quote unquote out of the Dabbleverse, but he comes back in every so often. Um, Anthony Cumia from Opie and Anthony's in it. Opie's in it. Shuli Egar from the Howard Stern show. Bob Levy from the Howard Stern. All blah blah blah. And then there's all sorts of fans of the shows who have their own podcasts. Some are bigger. This is one of the smaller ones, obviously. We try to do a political show and a Devilverse show kind of combined. Um, but and sometimes the show is just all politics. Sometimes it's more Dabbleverse politically related. But every so often I do something by myself, and I call it the PMS podcast. Basically, Stuttering John used to do a political show once a week that he called the Politics Plus show. It was politics plus the Dabbleverse. So I called mine the Politics Minus show, PMS. Haha, super funny, right? So anyway, let's get down to the story. I'm gonna watch some videos for those that don't know what's going on. Obviously the big story as far as ICE and immigration today is what's going down in California, where, in my opinion, Donald Trump is trying to distract from his fight with Elon Musk, which is what we would have been covering on Dabbling in Politics tonight. And some of the stuff Elon said is probably especially that Trump is in the Epstein files, which is something we all know. And this is not a anti-Trump thing, anti-right wing thing. There are plenty of lefties in the fucking thing. Bill Clinton's in that fucking thing. It's an elitist thing. That's why it's never going to get released, no matter who the fuck is president, no matter what party's in charge. So, I want to cover this story. I've been debating how much info I'm gonna let out. Oh, by the way, for those of you who are not in the Dabbleverse, if you're wondering about the mask, most of the people in Dabbleverse are good people. There are unfortunately a lot of trolls that like to dox and harass people, and Stuttering John of all people, and some of his minions tried doxing me and harass some of my family and shit like that. So I got to wear this stupid fucking thing. Anyway, um, so people in Dabbleverse kind of know I'm a Massachusetts guy. I've lived in one other New England state at one point, but I was born and raised in Mass, work in Mass, blah blah blah. I moved all around Mass. My father is from the Boston area. My mother is more from the suburbs, and I've lived everywhere in between. I lived on the Cape briefly. When I was younger, we lived in the Boston area. When my junior high teen years, we moved up towards the suburbs. Now I'm back in a small city, but not the Boston city. Anyway, so where this story takes place, Milford, this is one of the towns that I lived in at one point. So I know people that live there. This was my community at one point. One of my best friends from high school is a teacher at the school. I have another person I graduated with also works at the school. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say at this point. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, I know people in this community. I know teachers at this school. And what happened is last Saturday, Marcelo Gomes, who is a junior at Milford High School, was on his way to volleyball practice. Milford had a playoff game. It was like the top Sweet 16 coming up. And they were practicing early Saturday morning, and he was going to pick up a teammate or multiple teammates, and he was arrested by ICE. ICE claimed they were looking for his father. They claimed they ran his plate and they were looking for his father and took him in because even though he was a junior, he was 18, I believe. And he's actually an honor student. It's not stay back type thing. I just think, he moved to this country when he was 7. First, it was reported he was 5, but I believe he was 7. So I don't know if there might have been a language thing. He might have started school later, because of that. But he's an honor student. He's one of the best volleyball players on the team. He's the drummer in the school band. Everyone loves this kid. And yeah, he was picked up by ICE. I believe there was another undocumented immigrant teammate of his in the vehicle, who was not picked up because he was 17. But this became a big rallying cry for the town. And the day after he was picked up was graduation day for the seniors. And so he was supposed to, Marcelo was supposed to play drums during the ceremony. I believe they left one of the drum kits empty or whatever. And after the graduation ceremony, the students, along with teachers and other neighbors and family members in the town, all walked down the town hall and had a big protest. That was a week ago today, last Sunday. So that's where we'll start. I'll stop right there. I'll pause. We'll watch the first video. These are going to be like news clippings or local news stories in the Boston area from each day until we, get to see what happens. I'm going to put them at 1 1/4 speed. Hopefully this will stop any copyright strikes or whatever. I'm just getting the first video ready with the playback speed, 1 1/4. All right. We will get this ready. And yeah, we'll take this, like I said, day by day. So last Saturday, he gets picked up on his way to volleyball practice. I will tell you what really happened. His lawyer, I'm not going to play. There was an interview with his lawyer, but the volume was super low. So I'm not even going to bother with that one. But I'll tell you some of what she said. Because like I said, ICE claims that they claim that they were looking for his father and they just happened to run the plate and they grabbed him. You're going to find out that's not true. Shocker. But that's what can we say? So anyway, here we go. This was the day after he was picked up last Sunday and graduation day.
News. Free Marcelo! Free Marcelo! Free Marcelo! Free Marcelo!
And we want to begin tonight with new information on a student from Milford High who was detained by ICE yesterday. Tonight, his community rallied, chanting Free Marcelo in protest to support 18-year-old Marcelo Gomes. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Ken McLeod with you on this Sunday. The teen's plight is spreading fear in a community where there are a ton of migrant families. And tonight, the governor is demanding answers, saying,
yeah, so I can attest to that. When I lived in Milford, which was a while ago, there were tons of migrant families then. I'm sure there's even more now. When I was there was a lot of Italian families, Portuguese families, Brazilian families, and Haitian. No, not Haitian. I forget the other one. Hopefully I can remember. And but I believe Marcelo was Brazilian.
She is disturbed and outraged. We have live team coverage for you tonight, from the teenager's family to that major show of support to the governor's obvious displeasure. Let's begin with WBZ's Logan Hall, who first broke this story yesterday. Logan?
Yeah, Ken, that's right. Good evening. It was an emotional day for Marcelo's family. Now, they tell us that Marcelo was able to speak with his parents, and he described the harsh conditions that he's being kept in. There was a big protest here at Town Hall today with members of this community rallying behind Marcelo, some of those images that you just saw. Now, that whole rally provided a lot of hope for this family. Friends and family rallying in support of Marcelo Gomes, the 18-year-old Milford High School student who was detained by ICE on his way to volleyball practice on Saturday.
He was on his way to volleyball practice, and separating him from his family. He's been here for 13 years. This is all he knows. Milford in Massachusetts is all he knows.
Marcelo's cousin Anna says he was supposed to play the drums at Sunday's graduation ceremony. While the community is rallying behind him, it's still an incredibly difficult moment for his family.
It's kind of heartbreaking, and Marcelo is just such a kind person, and he's the last person that this should be happening to, I guess. And his siblings are so young, and they're like asking questions like whether they're going to ever see him again.
Anna tells us Marcelo was able to call his parents and that he's currently being held at an ICE detention center in Burlington. We spoke exclusively to one of the other students in the car while he was arrested. The student is also undocumented and asked that his identity be withheld. He described what he was feeling as agents interrogated him and detained Marcelo.
I think mainly sadness that
So this kid, like, he's also on the volleyball team. He hides his face here, but ironically, in another interview, I think the next day, he shows his face. And I watched the volleyball game, the playoff game they played without him, without Marcelo, and this kid got a monster ovation. Because I'm sure he's scared too. No, I know a lot of people. I get it. You're against, do it the right way. I will just say this: they were legal at one point. They had visas. Marcelo had a student visa. Sorry. I don't know who's responsible for, if his parents are the ones that let it expire or whatever. Because he's 18 now, but it might have expired when he was still underage. So yeah, it's pretty much a paperwork thing. It's a paperwork crime. I'm sure a lot of people have committed paperwork crimes. I'm sure people have had their insurance expire, their license expire, shit like that. That doesn't mean you should be locked up on a cement floor with like 40 other guys. Especially this kid's a high school student. He was locked up with like guys like 30 middle-aged guys. I'm sure he was scared to death.
the thought of everything that my parents left behind, everything that my parents sacrificed for, and the 10 years we've been here, all of that just gone down the drain. Everything I had personally worked for in my high school career, all of that just down the drain, and knowing and having to go back to a place where I was never really familiar with.
In a statement, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey said, quote, "I'm demanding that ICE provide immediate information about why he was arrested, where he is, and how his due process is being protected." For Anna and her family, there was an emptiness to graduation today, with Marcelo's absence being felt. But seeing the community come together and support her cousin brings them hope.
It makes me really happy because I don't think the community would come together like this for any other person. It shows how special he is.
Again, Marcelo is an 18-year-old student here at Milford High. He's a member of the volleyball team and is described as a funny and lovable student, someone who is well known across this campus. We've reached out to ICE for comment on this case, and they still have not gotten back to us. Reporting live in Milford, Logan Hall, WBZ News.
All right, Logan, thanks for that. I know you'll stay on it. The community turned out in numbers following today's high school graduation ceremony in Milford, where Gomez was supposed to play in the band. Hundreds gathered to support him. And WBZ's Paul Burton picks up our team coverage from Town Hall there.
Just an incredible outpouring of love here from the Milford community as students, faculty, friends rally on behalf of 18-year-old Marcelo, who was detained yesterday and was supposed to be a day of celebration. Students say there's a sense of emptiness and loss.
Free Marcelo! Free Marcelo! Free Marcelo!
An emotional display of love for Milford High School student Marcelo Gomes. Hundreds lined Main Street in Milford and supported the 18-year-old who was detained by ICE agents over the weekend. After Sunday's high school graduation, seniors marched down the street to join residents in a rally outside Town Hall.
Marcelo was a good kid. He was excited for his future. He did absolutely nothing wrong. He was innocently going to a practice and he was targeted.
Juliana Rentes breaks down at the rally and embraces Marcelo's younger sister. Rentes says so many students are living in fear of ICE.
There's no pattern, so no one knows who's next.
Our students deserve to feel safe, and they don't feel safe. And arresting some of them traumatizes all of them.
Hands off our kids!
Milford English teacher Sherry Peterson knows Marcelo and taught him in her English class.
I can't imagine how scared he is. He doesn't know how to navigate the system. I wouldn't know how to navigate this system.
The rally lasted a few hours.
I just want to say that I love how the teachers in Milford are rallying around this. Like I said, I have two guys I went to school with, work at the school. One of them I was very good friends with. He's a teacher there. I even dated his sister in high school. That's what a nice guy he is. No, but he was one of my good friends, and he was posting Marcelo shit stuff all the time, pushing, for his release. I thought about reaching out to him for an interview. I still might, because I plan on doing a second stream on this, as obviously things are still going on. If I do, I'll probably do a pre-recorded interview with him off because I don't want his face being shown because of this Dabbleverse shit, and I don't know what he want as a teacher, like what he wants to say. I know he's openly supporting on his Marcelo and everything on his social media, but an interview might be another thing. So we'll see. Might even do, not. I might even just like read some of his answers if he agrees to an interview. But the reason I want to pre-record it is since we were good friends, I don't trust us not to accidentally call each other by our real names, which I don't want. I definitely don't want his name out there. I don't really want my real name out there either. So like I said, if we pre-record it, if that happens, I can just edit it out and I can go over the interview during the second video. But we'll see. I didn't plan on doing this tonight, so I kind of actually planned on even reaching out to him like tomorrow, but when I thought I was going to do this later in the week. But anyway, for the second video, I might even have an interview. An interview with one of his teachers. So that should be interesting.
Honking in support as they pass by. Milford Police Chief Robert Tassino says his department was unaware of Marcelo's detention until after the fact.
We want an open dialogue with the federal government about who's getting detained, why they're getting detained. We don't want, people just coming into town and being detained, or arrested solely because, they're here, illegally.
Renta says she knows Marcelo is feeling the love.
I feel really grateful that so many people showed up for Marcelo. I feel so grateful. God is so good.
The rally was both peaceful and emotional, and students say they will never stop supporting their classmate. In Milford, I'm Paul Burton, WBZ News.
Breaking news.
Okay, so that was last Sunday, a week ago today. So just to reiterate the timeline, Marcelo was picked up Saturday morning on his way to volleyball practice. Well, actually picking up another teammate on their way to volleyball practice. And then the next day, Sunday, was graduation. That's where the protest took place after graduation down at town hall, and so the next day after that was Monday, and the students at the high school staged a walkout protest.
Soon after the federal agents spoke, students walked out in protest at Milford High School.
WBZ's Paul Burton is live in Milford, and Paul, just judging by the size of that crowd, the students walking out of the school, Marcelo Gomes has a lot of people in his corner.
Yeah, and it's a testament to his character and the impact that he's had on his fellow classmates. This was a very emotional day for these students, filled with tears, prayers, and a strong sense of unity for Marcelo Gomes, who tonight remains in ICE custody.
Standing in solidarity, Milford High School students chant loudly on behalf of their beloved classmate, Marcelo Gomes.
He's not a criminal!
On Monday, students staged a walkout during their free period on behalf of Marcelo, the 18-year-old junior who was detained by ICE agents over the weekend while on his way to volleyball practice. Marcelo's girlfriend, Julianis Rentes, broke down at the rally in fear for his safety.
Scared. He was very nervous. I think he was very worried about his family.
ICE agents who detained Marcelo said he was not the target, but they were looking for his father, and they have a strong message for anyone here illegally.
He's 18 years old. He's unlawfully in this country. And unfortunately, we had to go to Milford to look for someone else, and we came across him, and he was arrested.
And I will say, his dad hasn't turned himself in yet, and his dad knows he's the target of it.
The rally started with students taking a knee, shared a brief moment of silence, followed with prayers of hope.
Okay, I want to touch upon the dad thing real quick, because my wife's family is pretty much MAGA, so they, we're interesting to see what they thought of this. They live in South Carolina now, but they're from up here. So anyway, one of my wife's family members was like, well, why doesn't the father turn himself in? And I saw other people posting that, and I can only assume that if he could trust ICE and there was going to be a 1-for-1 swap him for his son, he absolutely would have done it. But we all know they just would have taken him into fucking custody too, and then they both would have been locked up. So the family did the smart thing. They got themselves an immigration lawyer, and as we go along, you'll see what happens. But yeah, I just want to address. I know some people, some anti-immigration people, kind of shit on the father for not turning himself in, since supposedly he was the target. But as we'll get to later, according to Marcelo's lawyer, ICE lied about that too. So, but we'll get to that.
Marcelo was God's servant. He always preached the message of love. He loved his neighbor. And I think because of Marcelo and how he acted towards people is why so many people came out here today.
We all love him more than words can describe. You know, he's an amazing person. He's the light of the team.
But now a dark cloud hovers over this community filled with fear, sadness, and uncertainty of who may be the next target, knowing that ICE agents could show up at any moment and arrest anyone who's here illegally. Brenta says she knows Marcelo was not the intended target.
He was never the specific target that they were looking for, because there's nothing that he does that is illegal.
And Gomes' family has hired an immigration attorney who has filed a petition for his release. Meanwhile, justice says that ICE must not transport him out of the state for at least 72 hours. Live in Milford, I'm Paul Burton, WBZ News.
Okay, so that was Monday. So we will now move on to, I believe it was either Tuesday that his family has released a video pleading for their son's release. Hopefully, I actually lost the original where I watched it, so this looks like it shows it. Hopefully it does. I haven't had a chance to pre-watch this, but yeah, it does look like from when I scroll through that they will show the video of his family pleading for Marcelo's fucking Christ, for Marcelo's release. I did love how the town of Milford has all come together on this, you know, not just the migrants, everyone. Sorry, I am having tech issues right now. What the fuck? Yeah, the whole town, the teachers, the immigrant family, the immigrant community, the migrant community, everyone. And I've seen this in other places. There was a town, I believe in California, I can't remember what it was called, where a local waitress, I think her name was Carol, was taken in by ICE, and the whole community was upset. Even the people that voted for Trump, because they said, I remember literally one woman was like, "We were told that they were going to arrest the gang members, the criminals, not Carol." So I'm glad to see that there were even some Trump people upset with this. I'm sure there were people in Milford that voted for Trump that are still on Marcelo's side, because they thought, you know, that they were just arresting and detaining and deporting criminals and gang members, not just people here fucking, you know, they came here legally and their paperwork expired, and, you know, a junior in fucking high school who's an honor student, who's in the band, who's on the volleyball team. It's disgusting.
It has now been 4 days since Milford High School student Marcelo Gomes da Silva was taken into ICE custody. Now we're hearing from his parents and siblings who are begging for him to be released. NBC 10's Alicia Palumbo in Milford with his family's emotional message.
I just really miss him, and I hope he comes back soon. Please.
Tearfully pleading for mercy, the family of 18-year-old Milford High School junior Marcelo Gomes da Silva making this video with their attorneys to try to convince ICE to release him.
Hello, ICE. My name is João Paulo, Marcelo's father. I miss my son. I love my son. We need Marcelo back home.
ICE agents detained Marcelo while he was driving his father's car to volleyball practice Saturday morning. ICE says Marcelo's father was the intended target, wanted for driving in excess of 100 miles an hour in a residential zone. His father says his son had an F1 visa that lapsed.
Okay, I will talk about that right after this video. I will talk about supposedly getting the father and the 100-mile-per-hour fucking speeding.
He came in lawfully, then he transitioned to another type of visa. Whether or not that's lapsed is sort of irrelevant for his detention, frankly.
Marcelo's family says he's been moved back and forth between ICE holding cells in Burlington and Plymouth, mostly because there weren't enough beds and he had been sleeping on the floor. They say he now has flu-like symptoms, isn't eating well, and has anxiety.
Please bring my son back. I miss you, my son, so much. When he gets back, I will get him a really big hug. But ICE, please get him out, please.
Marcelo's attorneys tell us he has an immigration hearing set for 1 p.m. on Thursday where they hope he will be given bond. At Milford High School, Alicia Palumbo, NBC 10 Boston.
All right, Alicia, thank you. The Massachusetts U.S. Attorney with some strong words for Boston Mayor Michelle Wu over the mayor's criticism of ICE actions in the state.
Referring to federal agents as, quote, secret police is offensive. There are no secret police. ICE agents, along with other federal law enforcement partners, are making immigration arrests. That is no secret. They are arresting individuals who are here illegally, which is a violation of federal law. Every enforcement action is conducted within the bounds of the Constitution and our laws.
Last week, in an appearance at the WBUR Festival, Wu said people in the city are terrified of getting snatched off the streets by masked officers and that the city is under attack. Well, you just heard from U.S. Attorney Leah Foley, who added that ICE agents have the right to cover their faces to protect them from doxing, which is shorthand for releasing people's personal information or bringing harm to their own lives. We have reached out to Mayor Wu's office for reaction to this video. We are waiting to hear back. Meantime, the cities of Somerville and Chelsea are taking the Trump administration to court all over its sanctuary city funding threats. President Donald Trump has said that he plans to strip.
Okay. Don't care about the rest of that. Well, I do, but it doesn't pertain to this story. So, yeah, apparently even ICE is worried about doxing. It's not just a Dabbleverse thing. Okay, I just want to address the allegations that the father was the target and that they pulled over the son on accident because they were looking for the father, and that the father was speeding in excess of 100 miles per hour and got, I don't know, that's why at some point, and that's why they were coming to, in a residential, and that's why they were coming to get him. I don't know, because I think if it's over a certain amount in an area, it can be like, arrestable offense. So the family's lawyer, Marcelo's lawyer, who you saw, her name was Robin, either Nice or Niece, I apologize. She was in that last video. She says that there is no evidence that the father committed those speeding crimes. That he denies it, and they have not been. She, as the lawyer, has not been shown any proof that he was speeding and all that stuff. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's their defense right now. It has not been shown to be true. Either way, according to the lawyer, the ICE has to document where they were, at all times, and they were staking out their house. So ICE saw Marcelo get into the car. So they know the father wasn't driving. They knew it was a teenager. They let him pull out, and he actually drove to his friend's house. They said, like, in a condo complex. Milford has lots of condos in places like that. It could be, I could think of like three right off the top of my head, three developments. I'm not sure which one they pulled into, but they pulled in. Marcelo pulled in to get his friend for practice, and ICE pulled in right in front of him or behind him and blocked him in. And of course they get out, they got masks, they got, you can't see their fucking names and all this shit. And they didn't even ask about his father. They said, "Do you know why we stopped you?" And Marcelo's like, "No, I don't know why you stopped me." And they go, "Because you're illegal, or you're an illegal." So, according to the lawyer and according to Marcelo, again, they never asked about the father. They were staking out the house, so they knew it was Marcelo in the car. They knew it wasn't the father. So this whole thing, like, oh, we accidentally, grabbed the teenager while we're looking for the father, does not appear to be true. So take that what you will. I know some of you aren't going to care. Some of you, hey, you let your shit expire. Sure, it's judgmental. I'd like America to be great too, but what I want people to think about, if you watch this later, is the town where this family's from, Milford, Massachusetts, a town I know well. A town I lived in at one point, a town I called home at one point in my life. They want Marcelo there. They want the whole family there. They don't want them deported. They think the town is better with this migrant family here. Okay. So who were we? Like I said, it used to be my hometown at one point. I've had many hometowns. I've moved a lot. But this was one of them in my younger years. And I don't know this family, but I know people that do know this family, and they have nothing but nice things to say about him. This kid is, Where I think Ice really fucked up is this kid is a fucking squeaky clean, great kid. As I said, I mean, I'm an atheist, so that all this God stuff doesn't mean much to me, or I'll just say I'm an agnostic. Doesn't mean much to me. But I know MAGA is supposedly very Christian, so he's all into God. He praises God. He lives for God. He teaches the Word of God. Um, he gets great grades. Like I said, he's an honor student. He plays drums in the band, so he plays music. He's one of the best players on the volleyball team. I'll just, not that this is important to the story, but that playoff game, I actually watched some of it because Milford, they broadcast their games on YouTube. I hadn't seen a Milford volleyball game in fucking decades. I had seen the playoff game back in my teen years, and even in the playoffs, people don't really come out that much. It's just the friends and family members of the players. But that gym, that Milford High gym, was packed and it was electric. They played another town named Taunton. The Taunton players were wearing Free Marcelo shirts during warm-ups, just like the Milford players were wearing Free Marcelo shirts during warm-ups. They had yellow ribbons for support. Like I said, I love how the teachers, the faculty, the whole school is coming together, because this could have been an issue. Like schools are afraid to get political. I mean, social. But this Marcelo is one of their own. He's one of the town's kids. He's one of the teachers' kids, so they care a lot. Let's see what Judge Mental has to say here. If you break immigration laws, you're a criminal. I'd rather not have criminals in the U.S. come in the legal way. Well, they did come in the legal way. His student visa expired. They did come in legally. That's why he was in the system and everything, school system. Like I said, I don't know why they let it expire. I don't know if they missed, something, but yeah, he was here legally. There's no violent crimes here. There's no fucking rape. There's no burglary. There's no murder. There's nothing. It was a high school junior honor student, varsity volleyball player, drummer in the school band, who the whole town loves. Like I said, you don't know him. I don't know him. Everyone that knows him loves him, and they want the family there. They want the family in their community. This has nothing to do with us. It doesn't affect you anyway. It doesn't really even affect me anyway. Just it affects people I know and love. It affects, a former hometown of mine. So I think if you get to know these people, like I said, I've moved around a lot. The city I live in right now has lots of immigrants and migrants. Milford, where I, lived at one point, tons too. They actually used to, this was pre-ICE, so I don't even know what agency this was. They used to come around. I remember it was once a year, once every few years, and they would kind of inspect or certain apartments, and they more were going after, there would be certain apartments where, like, I don't even know if they were documented or undocumented, but you'd have like 12 people living in like a 3-bedroom apartment, and it's like, they literally, like, one guy would sleep in the bed 8 hours and another guy would sleep, like, one be working first shift, one second. So it was more of a, what do you want to call it? More of breaking housing laws, like like too many people in a small space type of thing. But yeah, they used to do that, and I can't remember what it seemed like a lot of this would happen. A lot of the migrants were from this one particular country. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't one of the major ones I mentioned earlier. It wasn't Italy. It wasn't Portugal. It wasn't Brazil. Can't remember what it was. Maybe it'll come back to me. But it's not really important. But yeah, it's like Milford has had immigrants and migrants as long as I can remember, as long as I've been alive. And like I said, I'm sure there's even more now. But anyway, I will play the next video. This one's kind of going to be like a sort of summary, I think, of a bunch of things that happened. So yeah, the volleyball team had the match. They had Marcelo's jersey number 10 hanging up in the back. Milford got out to a good lead. They won the first set. They were winning the second set. But then Taunton came back and won, and then Taunton just won every set. Milford just didn't have it. Marcelo was one of their best players. I think they were all emotional. They were trying to ride that emotional wave. Like I said, the place was electric. But I did see in an interview, I don't think it's going to be in one of the ones I play, but one of the players was like, it was just more important that we played. It was just more important that we, celebrated Marcelo. They didn't even see him up. Like they don't even care if they win or not because they want their friend free. So this is going to be a summary, I think, of a lot of what happened. This pick starts off on Monday, which was 2 days after Marcelo was picked up, the day of the high school walkout.
I have my whole team here, and we're making some shirts for Marcelo that we're going to wear tomorrow in the game.
We wish Marcelo was here. It'd been a lot different. It would have been more laughter, more joy.
Marcelo isn't just a teammate or a friend, but I consider him a brother. We had an early morning practice on Saturday. Marcelo wasn't there.
He overslept. That's what we thought. We thought Marcelo overslept and just didn't want to show up to practice that day.
After practice, we went down to the locker room. Mr. Otland, our principal, followed us down, and he told us the news that Marcelo was taken into custody by ICE. And when that happened, room fell silent. It went from smiles and laughter, excited for the playoffs, to just dread.
I stood up, went outside with my coach, and we just started crying to each other.
Mr. Otland is Josh Otland. He's the principal. He's actually, I know him a little bit. I don't know him well, but I know him a little bit. Seems like a very nice guy.
Just hugging each other. Marcelo is like a light.
So again, thank each and every one of you for your life that you are playing and supporting tonight's.
Okay, so judgmental, I just want to address you real quick. I am also disgusted with the Democrat leadership in our country. I believe for different reasons than you do. So I believe, all right, I am definitely obvious. I am more liberal, progressive, whatever you want to call it. But that's not really my passion. My passion is more economic issues. I consider myself, if you want to put a label on it, a economic populist. Or I believe we should all be paid fair wages. We should all. Cost of living is way too high. Wages are way too low. Rent and mortgages are way too high. Food's way too high. Prescription drugs, insanely too high. Everyone in this country should have health care. Everyone should get a living wage. Everyone should have food on the table. We are the richest country in the world. There's no reason for any of this. Okay, you as a veteran, I believe when you get back, I believe you should not be sent to fight unless you absolutely have to. I am sick of our troops being sent to go fight for fucking oil. So the billionaires and stuff can get their fucking minerals. I believe all our veterans should be taken care of for life. I hope you know that a lot of your Republicans, I shouldn't say, I don't know if you're a Republican, but that's not just a Democrat thing. Republicans do not take care of vets. For the longest time, every year, Senator Bernie Sanders and late Senator John McCain, Bernie's an independent, but he's obviously progressive. McCain, Republican, conservative, they would write a bill to take care of our veterans, and it would never get through. And it was mostly Republicans voting against it. So neither party is helping us. Neither party is helping you or me. Real quick, sorry. No, you're not. I appreciate you watching. You're not derailing. I just wanted to acknowledge your comments. I appreciate your comments. Yeah. Okay. So I will say this, sir. I believe you're a sir. I shouldn't judge. I'm guessing you're sir. Sorry. If you're a ma'am, I apologize. All right. I'm trying to. Trump when them are cutting regulations. to make it easier for them to get money. They're not cutting BS spending. Trump wants to have a monster military parade on his birthday that's going to cost tons of money. Trump is adding even more money to the Pentagon budget, to the military budget, which is already way too high. I called this day one, not that it was hard, but when the Doge stuff happened, and I was like, Elon will not, and Doge will not investigate the Pentagon budget. I mean, the Pentagon's the only agency that fails its audit every year. And not only did they not look into it, they added money to it. And I predicted both. Unfortunately, man, Trump, and I can't even tell you how much I hate Democrats. I can't even tell you. Chuck Schumer, whenever he comes, like, here's what most of the Democrats run on: we're not Trump. They don't try to make anything better. They just say we're not Trump, and that disgusts me. They give you nothing to vote for, nothing to fight for. With my beliefs, the Democrat Party should be my party, and it's not. I'm just an independent. I can't stand. There's a handful of Democrats I like. 99% of them I don't. There are some that don't take corporate money, and those are the ones that I can deal with. Most of them I can't. Yeah, I'm not even worried about the spending. It's where the money's going. It's the I mean, Elon, people like, and not just Elon, Zuckerberg, Bezos, all the billionaires, the government subsidies they get, they get fucking billions, essentially from the government every year. They don't pay their fair share of taxes. Yeah, all right. I guess I did get I derailed myself here. I appreciate you watching, so I don't want to get all into it. Yeah, so undocumented immigrants. Okay, if you're talking about undocumented immigrants with fake Social Security numbers, sometimes they buy Social Security cards off other people, I should say. Yeah, I guess. But undocumented immigrants pay billions and billions in taxes every year, and they don't get tax rebates. They don't get all the benefits we get. They don't get, if you're talking about migrants, we have a migrant process, people want to, seek asylum. Yeah, they may be getting certain benefits while that's happening. Undocumented immigrants are usually picking fucking produce for like slave wages, stuff like that. There's a whole thing. I maybe I'll do it one day on. I believe it was North Carolina. When you're tried, they paid more than they've ever paid to produce pickers to try and get American workers, and just Americans won't do the job. It's so hard. It doesn't pay well. I mean, if all the undocumented immigrants left, we'd be fucked. We would actually be fucked when it comes to certain things. But that's a whole other issue. And I'll also say this: it hurts as someone that's an economic populist. I'm not thrilled with a lot of it either, because a lot of the billionaires will take advantage and they'll pay migrants, pay undocumented immigrants cheaper wages, and it does keep the workers, the wages down for the working class. Absolutely. And mind you, just so you know a little bit about me, I'm in my mid 40s. I have two jobs. I've worked for the same two companies for over 20 years. I have my full-time job, regular 40-hour week job, sometimes get some overtime, 50, 60 hours, but at least 40. It's a major tech company. It's one you've heard of. And then I have a part-time job landscaping, where I landscape in the spring, summer, and fall on the weekends, and even like some evenings after work. So I do the evening thing a lot less now. I'm getting older. I'm having, physical health issues and stuff like that. But I'm someone that's worked my whole life, man. I have actually decent benefits, decent health insurance through my company. I don't think the company pays what it should pay, but the benefits are pretty good, which is why I stay there, because I got a family and I need these benefits. When I look for a new job, a lot of times there's a grace period where you don't have health insurance at the beginning. And since I've been at this company forever, I get tons of paid time off, sick time, vacation time, and I'd lose most of that starting a new place. So I stay there. So I'm someone that works. I'm someone that has health insurance. I wouldn't. I'm not. I don't know how to say this. I've never been on welfare, food stamps, or anything like that. I'm that guy that's like stuck where it's like I make just enough not to qualify for anything, but not enough to I barely get by. That's why I have to work the second job, especially with like how utilities and all that stuff. So I get, trust me, man, I whatever anyone thinks of me, I do work hard for my family. So you think, and in the city I live in, yeah, I see lazy people intentionally on welfare, and it sucks. The ones I see aren't immigrants or migrants or anything, but I see them, and it does get frustrating. But I think that system needs to be there for people that need it, and people without money aren't the ones hurting us. It's the people with money and the power that's screwing us. Anyway, I'll get back to this. I thank you for watching, sir, and I thank you for your comments. And I thank you for your service. Sorry if I didn't thank you. I definitely thank you for your service.
Milford and Marcelo. So let's cheer for both teams tonight to support some great volleyball.
A very different atmosphere, a very unique atmosphere here in the Milford gym tonight. An absolutely jam-packed crowd, an emotional atmosphere.
It's really heartwarming and endearing. The outpouring of love I haven't seen to this level ever in my 22 years here.
And the cheers now will rise up from this Milford community. They played this game for their teammate, Marcelo Gomes, and they certainly left it all on the line to support their teammate, who right now resides in ICE detention.
So just a quick recap, since I got off the tangent. Marcelo was picked up Saturday. Sunday, it was graduation day. That's when they had the first rally protest to get him released. Monday, the students staged the walkout, actually with the teachers, to have a second rally. The volleyball game was either Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember at this point. I think it was Wednesday. But anyway, they had a big rally then, and they lost. And Thursday, here we are. They're I think this is outside the ICE detention center. They were going to his detention center, protesting. I know at one point there was a court thing where they wanted to move him to another. They wanted to move him out of state. They wanted to move him to Rhode Island, and a judge blocked it. And then the next day was the hearing to see if he would be let out on bond. And no matter what people think of the issue, this is the part that I think is crazy. Even if people think that Marcelo and his family should be deported, to me, there's no reason that they shouldn't be allowed to, like a lot of deportations process. There's a due process. And when that process is taking place, people aren't incarcerated. They're home. They're living their lives. Only if they think you're a flight risk, or you have like other crimes, should you even be locked up while this is going on. This family is entrenched in the Milford community. They've lived there. And Marcelo doesn't even really remember Brazil. He's lived there, I've heard, since he was 5 and since he was 7. I'm not sure which. I actually think it's 7 because I think Marcelo may have said that. But when it first happened, people were saying 5 for some reason. He has young siblings. Both his siblings look much younger than him. I wouldn't even be surprised if they were born here. If they weren't born here, they were babies when they came here. So, the family's not a flight risk. They've committed no other crimes. There was no reason for Marcelo to be locked up, chained up, sleeping on a concrete floor with 40 other men, all middle-aged, while he's a high school junior. So this was the day he was released on bond, $2,000 bond. There was actually a rally set up, scheduled that day at 3:30 in the town park in Milford. I don't know if it ever took place. I have a feeling it got canceled because his release was announced before that. If they did anything, it may have been a celebration, but everything I saw after that was interviews with Marcelo, interviews with his lawyer, and then there was a news crew, well, actually multiple news crews at Marcelo's home in his neighborhood when he finally got home. Um, so yeah, this was the day where they announced a $2,000 bond. I know there was a GoFundMe for them. When I actually looked at it when I found out the bond just to see if they needed help, and they were like, I think they had like 47,000 raised or something ridiculous. So they were looking good. I know some of that's supposed to go into the immigration lawyers. But yeah, $2,000 bond I think is fair. Um, I don't think it should have been any higher than that. Like I said, it was just a kid. I would have been surprised. I would have been fine if it was on his own recognizance. Um, but yeah, thankfully a judge sent Marcelo home on Thursday. While he's not in the clear, him and his family can still be deported. But while that process is going on, he's home in his neighborhood and in his town of Milford, Massachusetts, where he belongs.
Sweating it outside the court. We ran out the car. We hugged all of our teammates, friends, everyone, knowing that Marcelo was going to be free.
Thank you for bringing Marcelo home safely, Lord. We thank you for such a chief bond, Lord. We just pray in the name of Jesus that your will is done, Lord. They continue pouring your blood over his family, over his life, Lord. Continue pouring your blood over Giuliani's, over her family, Lord. That you continue anointing them, Lord. In the name of Jesus, Lord, we give you thanks for this moment, Lord. Amen.
Amen. We pray, amen.
So that's Marcelo. I believe the woman in the white is his attorney. And hopefully, I think the volume on this is a little better. This is another video I skimmed through quickly. There were tons of videos I watched during the week, but I was trying to find some better ones for this. So this was just something I found right before I went on the show, and it had like a nice little summary of things. Because some of the audio on Marcelo's first interviews when he was released was pretty bad, so you couldn't really hear what he was saying. But I think they cover a little bit of the questions here, and we'll see what he says.
I'm extremely happy. Oh man, I want to hug my dog, my baby Luna, my sister, my brother, my mom, my dad.
He's gonna be here in 20 minutes. 20 minutes? It's almost 20 minutes. 22 minutes. How much minutes? 22 minutes. There's so many people here. Oh, Mel and Doug are here.
He's out the sunroof. Happy tears. Oh. Can you go out there or no? They're coming. He's coming.
He's coming.
He's coming.
Viva Marcelo!
All right, so I hope when people watch this, they will see, a mother, the family. I think I have one other video I'll watch. We can see a little more of that, of the release. Actually, I have two. I don't know which one I want to watch. Oops, I'll watch this one. But yeah, it's easy. It's easy to say, all right, you let the paperwork expire, you're here illegally, go to jail, get out, whatever people think. But when you actually know the person, like I said, this is happening in other places. I know California is having some issues right now, but I said there was another story where a local waitress who the whole community loved, she was deported, and people couldn't stand it. They loved her, and like I said, there was a woman in the neighborhood that was like, we voted, like, I think she voted for Trump, and she was like, we were told it was going to be gang members and criminals, not Carol, the waitress. So, anyway, we'll watch this video and then I'll probably just wrap it up. But I think this covers some more of the release in his interview.
This was the emotional moment that Milford High School student Marcelo Gomes da Silva was reunited with all of his family and his friends earlier this evening. The 18-year-old was released from ICE custody on a $2,000 bond. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. I'm Colton Bradford.
And I'm Priscilla Casper. ICE agents arrested Marcelo over the weekend while he was on his way to volleyball practice. Well, now, as you just saw there, he is back home in his own bed tonight. Our Jericho Tran was at that homecoming earlier today. She's joining us live from Milford. Jericho, what was the atmosphere like as he was returning home?
Priscilla, this was truly a heartfelt moment. Friends and family waited days to finally embrace Marcelo, and they got that moment tonight. We learned so much about Marcelo's time inside of the ICE detention center where he was kept in Burlington. He says at one point he was even helping to translate for some of the people who were also being held by ICE. But most importantly, he said...
Sorry. Hey, Ava. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I mean, so I mentioned earlier, Ava, I used to live in this town. I've lived in many places in Massachusetts. Milford is where I lived as a teenager and a young adult. So I have ties to this community. I have one of my best friends from high school is a teacher at the school. He was actually an assistant coach on the volleyball team. He's not anymore, but he was. He played volleyball when we went to high school. I know someone else that works at the school. I still have friends and family that live there. So this, started as a local thing, and then I saw it started gaining national attention. It was on Midas Touch and oh God, I forgot her name again. I can't stand her. That the MSNBC, their top correspondent there. But yeah, it started making national news when he was arrested last weekend. So I've been waiting to cover the story, but I wanted to see if he was going to be released, and obviously he was released last Thursday. And then I was just waiting for the moment, and since I couldn't do dabbling in politics tonight, I decided to do this at last minute. I'm probably going to do a second one as things go along, because the family and Marcelo are still going through their due process to see if they'll have to leave the country or not. But I am hoping to possibly interview my high school friend who works at the high school. As I said, I'll probably do a non-live interview, a pre-taped interview. So if we accidentally say things we don't want to say or call each other by our real names or whatever, any accidentally doxing information, I can edit it out. But I do have ties to the community and to the story, so I'm hoping to get more insider information as the story develops.
Says that he was able to persevere and remain positive because of his faith in Jesus Christ and his family. A triumphant homecoming as Marcelo Gomes da Silva embraced his parents.
The only thing I wanted to do when I got back here was hug my parents. My dad.
I'm feeling happy now. Thank you for you guys. Thank you for your job.
And friends.
I know him for 6 years. I'm so happy to have him back.
The high school junior left his family on Saturday for volleyball practice and did not return home until Wednesday night.
When I got here, the woman said, "Do you know why you're arrested?" And I said, "No, I don't." She said, "Because you overstayed your visa. You came here in 2013, and in 2015 you overstayed." And I told her, I was like, "Ma'am, I was 7 years old. I don't know nothing about that stuff."
The 18-year-old spent nearly 6 days in ICE custody.
This thin aluminum piece of paper that we sleep with, that's like our blanket.
But the conditions did not dim his spirit.
Every time people would need food there, I'm younger, I have a smaller stomach, so I'd give food to anybody because they're all 35-year-old adults. And I would tell them about God, how God would share, Jesus would share all the time.
As he kept his faith and his family close to heart.
I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. Obviously I get it from my dad. So
Marcelo missed his high school finals and the final game of his volleyball playoffs.
One of our athletes, but one of our friends and someone we care deeply about.
ICE says Marcelo's father was the intended target following the arrest.
He's in a prison now himself, and I thank God it's in his own house, but he knows that if he leaves, there's a chance that ICE will try to find him again.
Marcelo is determined to continue forward, garnering the same strength that sustained him during his time at the ICE detention center.
Jesus Christ. I pray every day, yeah. That's the only thing that guided me in that place. I feel like if you know Jesus and you've read the Bible and etc., you know that there's always a plan for something. So
Now, Marcelo was released on a $2,000 bond. His attorney says that the work to keep him here in the United States has just begun. In Milford, Jericho Tran, NBC 10 Boston.
Yeah, this is really only the beginning. Jericho, thank you. Marcelo also spoke at length about the conditions inside the detention facility. Jericho touched on that a little bit. He talked about, how he slept, who he was locked inside with, and he says no part of that experience was a good one.
I don't want to cry, but I want to say that that place, it's not good. It's not good. Ever since I got here, they had me in handcuffs. They put me downstairs, and I was in a room with a bunch of 35-year-old men, and those rooms were small compared to the size of how many men were there. There was 40 men in there. No one deserves to be down there. You sleep on concrete floors. The bathroom, I have to use the bathroom in the open with 35-year-old men. It's humiliating.
Marcelo says that because he spoke English, Spanish, and Portuguese, he helped some of those other men in there with him understand the documents they were being asked to sign. He says they told him, quote, I don't want to sign something like that will make me be deported, unquote. Marcelo says he had to give that bad news to a few of them because no one else was there to help them understand.
After appearing with Marcelo, Massachusetts Congressman Jake Auchincloss and Seth Moulton toured the facility themselves to see the conditions. Here's what they had to say.
The facilities that Congressman Moulton and I saw are not facilities that anybody should be spending 6 days in.
We saw a handful of cells, each one of them with half a dozen or more people in them. It's not, as Jake said, they're not conditions that anyone would want to live in for more than a few hours.
Congressman Auchincloss says the visit only reaffirmed his opinion that we have a broken immigration system.
Okay. So, yeah. So I did see a lot of that interview where Marcelo was talking about how he had to literally read the paperwork for the other migrant men. He had to break the news to some of them that they were being deported because they didn't even know, because they couldn't read what was being handed to them or understand what was being said to them. They are staying in inhumane conditions. Again, you can be against people being here, but there is a process, and we do have to treat people like people, not like animals, not like monsters. Like I said, this kid came here with his family when he was somewhere between 5 and 7, and he was here legally. They were here legally, but their paperwork, their visas expired. He was a kid. He had nothing to do with that. That was his. You can blame his father, mother. I don't know what they did wrong. I don't know if they realized it was expired. I'm not sure. Well, obviously, hopefully we'll find out as the story goes along. If there was a reason that the paperwork wasn't, re-upped, the visas were not re-upped. Hopefully that all comes to light. I'm not really, really sure. I can only speculate. But whatever it wasn't his fault. You can say it was his parents' fault if they fucked up. You can say it was a paperwork fault. Maybe his parents didn't understand. I've heard them both speak. We saw a little bit in the videos. They speak broken English. They may not understand a lot. Marcelo speaks English very well. His parents may not understand as much, so I don't know. But what I do know is the community loves this family and they want them to stay in Milford. Milford truly is a melting pot. Like I said, when I was there, it was tons of Italians, Brazilians, Portuguese, Spanish, Puerto Rican. That's American, but but very diverse place. I believe it's even more now, especially he's Brazilian. I haven't been to Milford in a while, but last time I did, there were tons of Brazilian restaurants on Main Street that weren't there when I lived there. So, it's a place with a lot of different kind of people. If you're looking for an all white, European town, it's not your town. There's a town right next door called Hopedale, which is small, and that's got to be 99% white. So if that's what people want to live, fine. But Milford is not one of those towns. I believe it was 1978. There was some time in the 70s where Milford, it's not tiny, but it's not big. It's a decent size for a town, but it's not a city. It was named the drug capital of the United States sometime in the 70s because it was perfectly in between Boston, Massachusetts, Providence, Rhode Island, Worcester, Massachusetts, which is like the second largest city in Massachusetts after Boston, New York. It's like this. It was right in the intersection of all these like major places. So there was all sorts of drugs going through. It's not like that anymore, but Milford has its nice areas. It has its not so nice areas, like any other place. But it is, diverse. And I mean, I'm sure you saw a lot of Hispanic-looking people in the town coming to his defense, but there was also a lot of white people, um, American citizens, clearly coming to his defense. Let's see. Alongside the story, there are thousands of stories of terrible criminals that ICE is apprehending. Well, I will tell you this: I have no problem. I want, if there are violent criminals here illegally, get them the hell out. I'll even tell you this: this is the same town, Milford. Roughly, let me see, when was this? I can kind of remember because it's right. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I've talked about this before. People that watch my videos, I had an opiate addiction for about 8 years, and I got sober in September of 2013, and I've been sober ever since. Right before I got sober, I was actually in Milford Hospital. I wasn't living in Milford at the time, but I was working near Milford, and that was the closest hospital from my work. Um, and I went there because I was supposed to see a doctor to get sober in a town in Framingham, which is another city in Mass. He could not see me that day, so my family wanted me to try and get help somewhere, so they took me to the hospital, and they didn't do much. They did nothing for me. I had to go see that doctor on Monday. But anyway, when I was in the hospital, they were talking about this story. There was something that happened in the town at the time. So it was August or September of 2013. There was an undocumented immigrant driving drunk in Milford. He hit a young man in his early 20s riding on a motorcycle. Um, I don't, I can't remember if he didn't know he hit him or whatever, but the guy was still alive, but him and the motorcycle were like pinned under the truck, and the guy kept driving. So he was dragging this poor guy. It's unthinkable. Uh, Guy screaming in pain. People were like honking, trying to get the guy to stop, to tell him he was dragging someone. He ended up killing that young man. I actually worked with two of that young man's good friends. That guy had several DUIs, and he was undocumented. Why he was still here, I have no idea. And that is not right. That's a big hole in the system. I have zero problem with undocumented immigrants who commit like DUIs, robbery, and certainly violent crimes like assault, rape, murder, obviously, blah, blah, blah. Get them the fuck out. I don't want them here. I don't know anyone that like, if anyone's sticking up for violent criminal undocumented immigrants, I have no idea what they're doing. I suggest all law-abiding peaceful tax-paying immigrants get their immigration status fixed. Yes, I agree. Like, so I believe, this is just my opinion. So obviously, so in Massachusetts, I'm not sure what state you live in, Mr. Mental, but Massachusetts is known as a sanctuary. I mean, they say sanctuary city, but a state. There are lots of it's a sanctuary city, meaning like you can't get in trouble just for being undocumented here. I get why people may think that's bad. I just don't think so. The reason for it is, suppose like I don't know, suppose like you're someone you love, just say like a sister, is attacked violently. And it's witnessed by an undocumented immigrant. Well, they might be afraid to come forward, as a witness because they don't want to be deported, and then your poor sister doesn't get justice. That's what this means. When, like, I don't think people realize that's what a sanctuary city means. Like, you can't get in trouble just for being undocumented, because they don't want people not to be witnesses. They don't want, like, sometimes there could be a car accident, and if you're undocumented, they'll take off. You know what I mean? And then person gets screwed. Insurance. So that's all that means. So I know Trump is coming after the on the sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, which Massachusetts is. As I said, Milford, as long as I've been alive, has had tons of immigrants, tons of migrants. I believe Marcelo was picked up as like a scare tactic to send a message because, as I said, they claim they were looking for his father, and maybe they originally were, but they were staking out the house. They saw that the father did not get in the truck. They saw that the son got in the truck. They still followed them, and then they still blocked him in, and they still took him in. And they actually waited for him to pick up other friends, including another undocumented immigrant. So who knows if that was intentional? As I said, that friend ended up being 17, and I guess they're not picking up underage people at the moment. That's the only thing I could think of. That's what the news said. The reason he wasn't taken into custody is because he was, still a minor, where Marcelo is 18. So yeah, a big issue we have right now with undocumented immigrants wanting to fix their paperwork is I'm sure they're afraid because of what's going on right now. There's no way to know if they're going to get taken into custody if they try and get their affairs in order. I would like to see a way where they're guaranteed nothing happens to them while they're trying to get their affairs in order. Look, if people have legit claims to be here, like I said, they were here legally at one point. If they can fix that, I think they should be able to stay. People seeking asylum, if they have real asylum claims, I mean, these have to be investigated. I will admit, like, I don't know. I'm sure people lie and claims that their lives are in danger in another country to try and get, asylum here. So you do have to look into it. I'm not saying can just take everyone at their word, but while these things are being looked into, they should be safe. They shouldn't be deported. They shouldn't be locked up. So yeah, people we tend when we don't know people, we tend to just see statistics where whatever there is 11 million, I think it's somewhere between 10 and 12 million undocumented immigrants here, closer to like 11 or 12. No, it's a good sized number. I think we need to remember that people, a lot of rich people, business owners, including Donald Trump, hire undocumented immigrants. They're the ones that exploit them. But also they do jobs that we won't do, like pick our produce, stuff like that. Okay, sir. If that's what you think, if you're sincere, I thank you. I do think like while they like, and if there's a reason why they shouldn't get it, like if you look into someone and they've committed crimes, I have no problem with them being deported. I have no problem with that. Marcelo's father, as I said, it's been very vague, but supposedly he got in trouble for going over 100 miles an hour in a residential or something. Like I said, the father denies it. The lawyer says there's been no evidence shown. The chief of police in Milford said he wasn't contacted. I mean, you think he would know? So I don't know. And then that one is shaky for me because if it's speeding, I don't know if you should be deported for speeding. Now, if it's some kind of reckless thing where he's going like 120 miles an hour on a friggin' residential, then we could, and he's drunk or something. Yeah, that's something else. But if he's just got a run of a mill speeding ticket, I don't think that's a reason to get deported. If it starts getting habitual and accidents start happening, okay. But yeah, when people are trying to seek, if they're here legally and they're trying to get legal, as I said, if when they're looking into it, if they find oh, this guy's he's a thief, he's a assaulter, he's a rapist, yeah, kick him the fuck out. 100%. I don't want them here either that way. I'm just talking about I lived in this town. Many of my friends and neighbors, were like I looking back, I probably had friends I don't even know their legal status. Friends I had in high school. I had a lot of Portuguese, Brazilian friends in high school. I never even thought to ask. I'm sure I had undocumented friends that I didn't even know were undocumented. or their parents may have been here legally, but maybe their parents weren't. They may have been born here, but their parents came here illegally. I don't know. But I would have stuck up for my friends too. So I was just happy to see the town stick up. Whatever you think, it shows that sometimes protests and pressure do work. Whatever, we may protest for different things, you and I, sir. We may put pressure for different things, but it seems all too often protests don't work. It's nice to see one work where, like I said, I don't know how this is going to end, but I believe the attention and the pressure may have helped. I think it helped to have him not transported out of the state, and it may have helped get him released on bond. When the judges couldn't help but see that the whole community was coming together. So that gives me hope for other issues. As I said, my big issues are I try to fight against class warfare. I try to fight for the poor and working class. Veterans like yourself, like I said, they should be taken care of once they get back. So yeah, that's the kind of things I usually protest for. Like I said, yes, social issues. I'm pretty liberal. It's not a passion of mine. Like just I'll just throw it out there because my friend Ava was here earlier. She's actually trans. I don't care. I don't even think about trans people. I don't care. So those issues I don't even care about. I care about the economic issues. And what I mean by care is like I don't care what people do. I don't care what you do in your own house, sir. I don't care how you dress. I don't care what anyone does in their own personal lives. So that as long as it's not, obviously harming innocent people. Yes. So I usually do a show called if you do look at my channel after, I usually do a show called Dabbling in Politics, and my co-host, his screen name is Liquid Cryptid. He is a conservative, and we try and. So I don't know if you're in the Dabbleverse. I'm not sure. It's just an online community, if you don't know. But there was one political show a week. And it was 3 guys on, and they were all. Not only were they all liberal, they were classic corporate Democrats. Liberals I can't stand. So, and they would not allow any other points of view on the show. I tried getting on the show, which is how one of the guys ended up partly doxing me, harassing my family or whatever. But that's why I started this show with my co-host Liquid Cryptid, because we were in this community that we liked and loved, but there was one political show, and it was just corporate Democrat crap, classic CNN, MSNBC garbage. I can't stand it. It's like people try to say, people try to say that how do I want to word this? That the media like CNN, MSNBC, whatever, they're way too far left. They're actually corporate. They don't get me wrong. They will virtue signal like they are, because like saying you're pro LGBTQ or you're pro Black Lives Matter or whatever, that doesn't cost them any money. They don't. Those are the issues they will fight for. That's why they seem like they're liberal or far left, because they will fight for the social issues, because that doesn't affect their bottom line. Like they won't fight for universal health care because big pharma and the insurance companies are sometimes they own the stations, but at the very least they are paying for the commercials, the ads. So you'll if you pay attention, you won't see like MSNBC or CNN fighting for universal health care or higher wages or stuff like that, because they're corporate more than anything else. They will just be liberal on the social issues because, like I said, that doesn't cost them any money, and that's the stuff I don't really care about. And I know it's easy for me to say. I am a married heterosexual white man, American citizen. I don't have the closest thing to a minority thing about me is, like I said, I'm agnostic. I'm not religious or whatever, but that's it. So I get why, obviously, if you're a member of one of those groups, you'd care, and I stand for your rights. But it's not what if I see some oppression happening at a higher level, yes, I will stand up for it, but it's not what I fight for on a day-to-day basis. Um, yeah, and that's the one thing I can say. Yes, the I get that. The I think the athletic part, the sport part, is very small. I think it gets blown up, but I can agree with you. I think at like the younger level, it doesn't matter. I mean, I played little league with the girls, and I played basketball with girls when I was in grade school and shit like that. Um, High school could get a little trickier, but yes, when it gets to like, the pros and stuff like that, yeah. I mean, at least minimum hormone levels. But I just think it's blown out of proportion. There's not nearly as many trans athletes as people make it, or some people try to make it out to be. But I do 100% get your point, and that is something I can totally listen to. I think anyone can understand that. You should be able to, especially if it's a like violent sport or something like that. Where someone that was born a biological male could have an advantage. Sometimes a dangerous advantage. So yes, absolutely. Um, but yeah, the point I was just trying to make is like those are the types of issues that the corporate Democrats and the mainstream media will pretend to care about, because they can look virtuous without, they don't want to give up any of their money from their corporate donors if they were standing up for like, affordable prescription drug prices, or Medicare for all, or free college tuition for all, things like that. So those are more of the issues. Like I said, economic populist, I guess, is what they call it. So I definitely lean left economically, if that's what that is. But I have lots of friends and family who are conservative. Most of my family is more liberal, but there are some conservatives. My wife's family is very conservative, so there's a there's a little difference there. I said earlier I have a part-time job landscaping. The guy I landscape for is conservative, but he's been fantastic to me for over 20 years. He's one of my best friends. So yeah, I think part of the reason created this channel and these shows, like I said, I go by Mumbling Nick. I am not a good speaker. I used to write like a blog, political blog instead. Stopped that because people suggested the YouTube channel. So I was like, yeah, fuck it. So yeah, I think people need to talk. It's the only way we can get anywhere in this country. I think we need to listen to one another. Because not everyone's bad. Like even that story I just covered, knowing Milford, I bet you there was a half decent percentage of people who voted for Trump who were wanted Marcelo to come home. They may even be against undocumented immigration in general, but this particular time, they knew the kid, they knew the family, so they wanted him to be free while they went through the due process. Don't shave your beard in front of everyone. Planet for okay. I don't know that one. Oh, I missed the sorry, I missed the first. I missed the one before it. I got you. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, um I think the bathroom thing is a little more tricky. I know there was someone recently who is a trans male, was born a female, but now identifies as male and looks male. The state this person lives in, they have to use the bathroom of what they were born. So this trans male tried using the women's bathroom like they're supposed to, and I think they got beat up. There was a whole thing. So it gets tricky because sometimes you don't look like this. So, but anyway, I do understand. I can even understand why you would feel that way on that one too. I just think that gets a little more tricky than the sports one. But I think those are compromise. If we can figure out a way where everyone can just use these bathrooms and be fine, like whether there's a third bathroom option or whatever, that's something I think we can eventually figure out. It's not like some of these other issues, where people are dying because they can't afford insulin and stuff like that, which I think is more important. So, yeah, I'll wrap it up. We're about to hit the 90-minute mark. Thank you for the few people that joined in. Thank you, Mr. Judgmental. I appreciate you. If you're interested, like I said, we usually do a show every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My co-host could not make it today, so I just did this by myself. I think we're going to try and do it tomorrow night at 9. We will be covering the Trump. We usually pick one or two topics. We will be covering the Trump versus Elon fight going on right now, which I think will be interesting to see. I don't like Trump or Elon. My co-host loves both Trump and Elon, so it'll be kind of interesting, I think, to see like what we each think. Like what do I want to happen when I don't like either of these people? What does he want to happen? And since he likes both of these people, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you. I like you too, sir. And once again, thank you for your service, and hopefully you can check us out some more. The Elon thing should be fun. One of my favorite shows we did was early on. We've only been doing this I think like 3 months. We covered Doge when this first started. It was pretty fun. Been trying to find interesting things to talk about. My co-host goes by Liquid Cryptid. You can find him on Twitter. He actually just started his own YouTube channel recently. I think his YouTube channel's mostly just Dabbleverse stuff, but yeah, he goes by Liquid Cryptid. He uses it's pretty interesting. He uses like a virtual reality type. I think he has like a whole setup, so he looks like a virtual reality character when he's on screen. But yeah, he's a good guy. With the way we ended up getting together is actually real quick. If you can answer me in the chat, do you know are you in the Dabbleverse? Yes, or just yes or no. If you know if you're in the Dabbleverse or not. If you are, then I can don't have to explain. If you're not, then I won't even bother. But just wondering if you stumbled upon this on accident, or if you're in the Dabbleverse, or you could be in the Dabbleverse and stumbled upon this on accident. But okay, you are. Okay. So what happened was I don't I have no idea if you know who I am or not, but I tried. So I came into the Dabbleverse just as a chatter about 2 years ago. Just watch the shows I like, chat. Every once in a while you got a chat put up. That's about it. But like I said, I came from a political background where I had a blog where I had like 3,000 followers, which isn't a ton, but it's not nothing. And they would try, and some of my most loyal followers would tell me that I should do a YouTube channel instead, because obviously more people watch political YouTube videos than read. And I was like, I can't talk. I don't have the equipment, blah, blah, blah. But you come in the Dabbleverse and you see there's a bunch of people that have podcasts that can't talk very well either. So I was like, fuck it. But I wanted to get on Stuttering John's political show for the reasons I mentioned, like because of him, Brian Karam, and Richard Ojeda. As a lefty, I hated how they portrayed the left, because they just that standard MSNBC corporate Democrat bullshit. So John would always say, he's here to help people. What else are we here for? So I, not last November, but the November before that, 2023, I super chatted him and I was like, hey, John, if you're here to help people, can I just come on your political show just once? I was like, Howard Stern gave you a big break when you had a stutter. I mumble, can you give me the same break type of thing? And he would go back and forth for months whether he was going to have me on or not. And I got it to a point because he's like, I don't know if you're going to porn bomb me, you're trolling me or whatever. So I started to like buddy up with some of his buddies like Clay Dabbler, who I actually do like. I ended up going on Rob Saul's show a couple times just to prove that I wasn't going to porn bomb and everything. Yes, he's an awful representation of a lot of things, of a man of the left. Yes. So yeah, I started, people that John liked and trust started vouching for me. So John was like, all right, I'll have you on. And then all of a sudden, once I was about to get on, the trolls came out and people started parroting my account, and they would like super chat John as me and say awful things about him, awful things about his kids. And it wasn't me, it was fake accounts. But so then John didn't know what was going on. Then all of a sudden, John did, threaten to dox me, say he knew who I was. Then he was like, he said he had a mole that said I was working with Shuli and I was going to porn bomb, all these lies. But while I was trying to get on the show, I would send in like one super chat every political show, and I would criticize something Biden or the Democrats were doing. And because of this, John thought I was MAGA. He thought I was a Republican. He thought I was a Trumper because I would criticize the Democrats. And I would tell him, like, John, I'm not. I'm an independent. I'm actually a progressive. I'm actually probably more progressive than you. But Biden, he's just taking corporate money and he's fucking over the middle class and blah, blah, blah. So this guy, Liquid Cryptid, every time John would say like I was Trump, he would like send me like a laughing face emoji. It was like an inside joke. So that's how we just inadvertently met that way. He would watch John's show. He was one of the only, me and him are one of the only people that would watch John's political show. And whenever John would like call me MAGA or call me a Trumper, Liquid Crypto would message me just laughing because he knew I wasn't. Everyone knew I wasn't except for John because he fucking believes anything. You're right. So that's how I met him. And then when I finally decided this, there's a guy in the Dabbleverse called Eckle Pineapple. He's a British guy. He uses a filter like Cardiff does, except he's a pineapple instead of a potato. I think he's got like 700 something subscribers. He's monetized, but he's one of the smaller channels. But I became good friends with him, and I actually do a weekly show. He has like 4 different shows he does. I do one of them as his co-host every Saturday. So I started getting more confident, doing the shows. And that's when I was, all right, I'll start my own show. At least most of my audience comes from people that watch me on his show. So when I wanted a co-host, though, and I wanted someone on the right, because I wanted to have 2 different perspectives. I didn't want what John had, which is everyone just agreeing with bullshit. And 2 people I had in mind were Liquid Cryptid, and there was another guy called Douche of the Dabbleverse, because there was a political roundtable in the Dabbleverse once. It was actually called Dabbling in Politics, and it was like there was like a guy from Carl's channel, the 2 train wreck ladies. There was a bunch of different people. So where was I? Yeah. So I did the Dabbling in Politics, the one-off, and I was like, and Douche and I, we got in like we were the 2 that got into like the heated arguments during the show. So it was good. It was good theater. So I thought of him, and we're friends. We're the type of people that can like have a full-blown blowout on politics and then be fine with each other, but unfortunately he left the Dabbleverse. He got drunk on a stream, and as he was on a stream and he was drunk, and he pulled out his unit, so he left. I don't blame him. So but Liquid was down to do it, so he became my co-host, because I wanted one of the 2. And yeah, Ava comes on sometimes too. She actually comes on a lot lately, so it's been good. So I would actually like to find another conservative, so we're gonna get some 2-on-2 shows. Yeah, yeah. If you're laughing at Douche, he's a good guy, but oh my god, I felt so bad. Like that's something you can't live down. That lives in infamy. About yeah. I mean, I love you. I know what he's saying. Blur the lines between turbo criminals. Yeah, like I said, I think the criminals, if you're a violent criminal or whatever, they got to get out. But if you're a good citizen, or if the only thing you have is speeding tickets, yeah, absolutely, just stay. There's tons of Americans with speeding tickets. So I think we have to start looking at these people as individuals, and not just a statistic, which is why I wanted to do this. this particular one because I said this one was personal to me, having lived in Milford, having attended Milford High School, and having friends and family that are still there. What are we doing? Yeah, if he ever wants to come on, I'd have anyone on my show. Absolutely. Ava's right. Ava is fired up tonight. Ava, did you ever get on? Yeah, yeah. As I said, I think pretty much everyone would agree that violent criminals should get out of here. I brought up there was in the same town of Milford there was a violent criminal um, who ended up killing. Well, he wasn't. I shouldn't say violent criminal. He was a habitual drunk driver who finally ended up killing somebody. The mother of that person is actually one of the people Trump kind of exploits, because their whole thing became against getting undocumented people out. No, Ava's a good friend of mine. I love Ava. She's very passionate. Um, yeah, she's usually not this fired up. She gets fired up, but usually not this bad. But not this fired up. Yeah, judgmental. If you ever, I don't know, if you might just want to view, but if you ever want to come on, you don't have to show your face or anything. Let me know. We always love to have different people on. My goal for this was, um, I want I watch a lot of independent media shows on YouTube. There's left wing, right wing, but they all make good money. Whether they're left winger, the right wingers make more, but even the left wingers make good money. I wanted to do a YouTube kind of political channel where there was actual representation. I'm a working class progressive. Ava's a trans musician in Portland. I'm a working class progressive in the Boston area. Liquid Cryptid is, he's a little more, he's not rich, but I think he's a little more upper middle class, conservative Republican. So yeah, I would like to have also, I'd love to have a veteran on my show, like yourself. I'd love to have someone who doesn't have health insurance who wants to talk about that, things like that. I would love to have actual people on that represent the issues. As I said, I'm thinking of even interviewing my high school buddy about this story that I covered today. When I hopefully do a part 2 on it. Oh man. All right. I appreciate you coming, Judge. I appreciate you watching. Ava, I love you. I appreciate you too. I was actually gonna end this like 20 minutes ago. I've just been babbling, so I'm just gonna end it now. Judgmental. I am on X as OG Mumbling Nick, just like here. If you ever want to look me up, if you're on X or whatever, message me. Like I said, if you ever want to come on, love to have you on. If not, hope you support the show again. As I said, it's usually Liquid Cryptid and I talking, and then sometimes Ava will show up during the show. We've had Jake Hudson on. That was a couple of times. That was pretty interesting. So just more representation. But yeah, I'm gonna be ending the show. So I appreciate everyone that stopped by. I think tentatively Liquid Cryptid and I, Ava, if you're interested, I think we're gonna be doing Dabbling in Politics tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, since we weren't able to do it tonight. If not, we'll just be pushing it till next week. But yeah, I appreciate, and just remember that these undocumented immigrants, they're people. Everyone has their own story. Can't just assume that they're all bad. You can't assume they're all violent. I love seeing these stories, especially in my old hometown, of the communities coming together. I'm sure it's scary times for these people. Thing going on in LA today, California. It's very, very interesting. I need to look more into it. From what I know, my initial reaction is I think Trump overreacted with the sending in the National Guard, but I'll have to look more into it. My personal opinion, it may have been something he was going to do anyway, but with the whole Elon thing and Elon bringing up um, Jeffrey Epstein, it may have been classic distraction maneuver, get people talking about something else. Because I remember last time when the Epstein files weren't released like they were supposed to, I forget what it was, but another big story just broke the other day. Oh, thank you. Yes, I was. I wanted to do this. I was just debating how personal I was going to get with this, with the Dabbleverse. I didn't know if I was going to tell people that I lived in this town and attended this this high school or not. But fuck it. If they want to waste all their time trying to figure out who I am, whatever. But yeah, like I said, I have personal ties to the community and a couple of the teachers, so I really wanted to cover this. And as it progresses, as we find out, as they go through due process, and as we find out if Marcelo and his family have to leave or not, I plan on doing a second video on this, and hopefully we'll have an interview with my good friend. Until then, thank you all. Please check. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be doing another one, and dabbling in politics, I should say. And yeah, as these issues come up, I might do more of these pop-up shows by myself or with other guests. Like Liquid and we like talking about certain things, and I would have no problem with him on this one too. But I know I want to do a lot of talking on this one and explaining, since I lived through it. Since I lived in the town. So I didn't want to have the usual back and forth banter that we usually have. But yeah, that'll be back to. Oh, thanks, Ava. Yeah, I wasn't sure because obviously, not only did I, live in the town at one point, it's in my home state, so obviously it's all over my local news. But Rachel Maddow covered this story, and the national news I covered this story, and Midas Touch covered it, so it is getting some national news. It kind of died down a little since he got released on bond, but from that's from Sunday through Wednesday last week, it was pretty much going around. All right. Anyway, that's it. Thank you guys. I appreciate everyone that watched. I love you, Ava. Hopefully, come on tomorrow if you're available. Judgmental, we don't agree on everything, but I appreciate you watching. I appreciate your service. I appreciate the back and forth and where we did agree. I did like how you said that they should be okay while they're trying to get their citizen right. So I appreciate that. Till next time, this is Mumbling Nick. Thank you. And thank you for everyone that got Marcelo free. Peace. Let me introduce myself for the first time. It's Mumbling Nick, the guy you're supposed to have on your political show.
Screaming truth in the void. Army major cocaine, Carol they deploy. Stuttering John, just a puppet on a string. Nick fights in the Dabbleverse, truth he brings. Nick mumbling, screaming truth in the void. Army major cocaine, Carol they deploy. Stuttering John, just a puppet on a string. Nick fights in the Dabbleverse, truth he brings. Blue collar fist strike against the power. PMS podcast hour after hour. Noise of the streets giving birth to a roar. Nick's got the voice that shakes power to the core. Mumbling Nick, rise up and yell against the odds where heroes dwell. Truth very deep, now set it free. Nick's the voice for you and me. Army major marching on with steel Marcelo and John, a shadow can't compete. Voices clash in the void of screams. Nick's got the backbone to break their schemes. On the podcast airwaves, rough and raw, Nick stands tall, defying law. Mumbling Nick, rise up and yell against the lies where heroes dwell. Truth buried deep, now set it free. Nick's the voice for you.